Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia, and this is Free Range, where we graze on wild ideas. And we have wonderful guests, and I have a wonderful guest today, and his name is Conrad Zeidervelt. And just before we get started, I've got one little thing that I would like to say, and that is for all you people out there, listeners, we are a listener supported channel, and we certainly need your help, and love and gratitude contributions or donations are greatly appreciated, and thank you so much for anyone who has done that in the past, and we hope you continue to do so because we do need your help. So thank you very much. On that note, Conrad, let's talk about you. And you are a contractor and an instructor in College of Building Trades, and you're an avid researcher. Plus, one of the most interesting things that we're going to talk about today is you talk to a lot of galactic ETs, correct?
That's it. Yeah, I have a show on Revolution Radio, and the link is freedomslips.com. That's kind of a joke because you can also read it freedomslips.com. And that's the way to get on Revolution Radio, and it's Friday afternoon Central or Mountain Time. So, yeah, and each group that we talk to usually helps bring in more guests the following time. Chris Roberts, who is a great interpreter of telepathic information, brings the information in real time as the guests who are not terrestrial, they're not from here, they give their synopsis of who they are and where they're from, talk about whatever they want to talk about for 5 or 10 minutes, and then they open it up to questions. So the host of the show, Viking, asks a whole bunch of questions, and then I get a chance. And we have a topic for each show. So the first hour that we do is usually on the topic which the guests are listening to, and then we can ask them. And it's very interesting talking to ET races because they're not limited with this kind of range of information that the average one of us might have. They have a much wider perspective, and their races, instead of tens of thousands of years, has probably gone on for 1 million years. So you can imagine where our race will be that far ahead from now. And with the giant armada, yeah, there's a giant armada visiting us right now from the founder races, who are the original people who put life on the planet. So these are very interesting times. So what's interesting about me is I'm interested in a lot of things, and that's what I like to bring forward, is things that I've recently found out that are going on.
Well, would you be willing to share that with us? We would like to hear about what the different races have to say, and whatever different topics that you may have covered, we can cover as many as possible, because I think a lot of people are very interested in the extraterrestrials, and are they here helping to raise the vibration of the planet, or are they here to just watch and observe, or any combination thereof, I'm sure. And I know that there's a few malevolent ones who have been politely asked to leave, and if they don't, it won't be so polite after a while, as I understand it.
Yeah, that's correct. There's been a war in space that they haven't really, they've tried to not share it with us as much as possible, because it meant going around and blotting up groups that were here and expelling other ones. And so that's already been won. That war has been won. And we're getting ready now to shift into the 5th dimension, which is a big part of what people that have come here are sharing that information with us, because they came here to watch that happen. But they're benevolent races, and we have free will. So if we ask for their help, they can give it. If we don't, they need to be hands off. So that's kind of
well, I'm here to ask them for their help. on this radio station, no channel. And please do help us. We love to have your help, especially benevolent ones, only benevolent ones, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, the information that they're revealing is also part and parcel of what's in the information that we're learning worldwide now. And we call it Earth, but a lot of them call it Terra or Gaia. And right now, as we speak, this is going on today. So as we go deeper down the rabbit hole, it gets actually simpler. On the top, you have organizations and peoples and networks moving around. But when you go a bit deeper or lower down the hole, you find a wider perspective of what's behind all the manipulations. And that perception comes from your state of consciousness. And perception becomes your behavior. And collective behavior is what we call human society. So we are at the last stretches of the ascension process right now, preparing for this moment when the planet will completely rise. And anybody who is inside the frequency of the fifth dimension, it means you're increasing your frequency and your perspective, and you're wanting to know what's really happening. They will accompany Earth through this moment. So the idea is to trust without looking, is to trust from the heart, is to trust in the feeling, and nothing more powerful forces are entering your planet this month, supporting all your awakened communities throughout the earth. The vortexes are holding a higher conscious frequencies, and this will increase in momentum and birth into a crescendo of light consciousness at the time of the split. Now, we're not talking about someplace that's far off. A lot of these people are incarnated, but a lot of them aren't. And the ones that aren't don't have clocks. So they don't give you a date it's happening. But the ones that are giving us information say it's the junction of the new year, this shift into 2022. It'll be happening during this December. You will become one with the light consciousness of the Creator at that moment. You will take your unique places in the redefining of Earth's magnetic light as these shifts within the spirit occur. Within the split occur. The split is the splitting between the new fifth dimensional Earth, which I'm assuming if you're listening to this program, you're going to be riding on it into the fifth dimension with us. And you actually have never been separate. This is a returning or a reunion to the components of your higher self. When you ascend to the fifth dimension, you're no longer in the realm of cause and effect, and you will live each moment with your free will. So that was the first part of my opening, and I have quite a bit more we can go on with. Do you want to?
That's fascinating. Everybody's been wondering about that. Is ascension really happening? Is it really, are we really going forward? Everybody wants a date, and we don't like to give dates because dates just don't always work out. And then all of a sudden you lose all kinds of credibility because you gave a date. And I've also been told it tends to be more event oriented rather than date oriented. And then what you brought up also is a very significant factor in that most ET races aren't, they don't have time. Nobody, I guess it's a third dimension thing to have a clock and linear time. So, and that's what we'll be going away from that too, correct?
Well, yeah, if you think about it, time, dates, linear thinking is a compilation of the way the earth goes around the sun. That makes our year. We have 12 months. So that gives us linear progression. We number the days in a month. So we're very linear in our thinking because that gives us some context. And then, of course, the more you're into cosmology or knowing where the planet and alignments are, but it's to live on the earth and be linear, you're in a 1, 2, 3 momentum. However, as we shift into the fifth dimension, a lot of that time consciousness will decrease. So people believe they have free will over their lives and their actions and caused by free will. In fact, the so-called free will is based on decisions and thought which depend on their past. So your life is not running according to your wishes. It is running according to the past. People are generally not free in their decisions to take part in society. The majority of the decisions are influenced by parents, schools, governments, community, and pressure from mainstream media. There's a lot
Finances.
of people there's a lot of people I talk to. If they haven't seen it on TV, they won't believe it. I
Oh,
mean,
I know, and I've had people laugh at me when they say that I got it on the internet. I'm going. So if you didn't get it from the mainstream news, which lies to you on a daily basis, then all of a sudden you don't have a reliable source. I think some people are in for a lot of shock. So those are the ones that we tend to call normies, and we don't really want to go back. Into the way it was, because the way it wasn't really a good thing for us in many ways. And I think it's interesting that you brought up free will. I don't really believe that people have been able to really express their free will based on what I know. If I had total and complete free will, I would be able to travel and go anywhere I wanted. I don't find that possible at this point in time. And there's because we have been in a slavery system where you have to earn a living. And I'm not opposed to work at all. I work 24/7 at this, but it's something that I do love to do. And that makes a big difference. And more people would be able to do what they love to do if we were in a situation where we didn't have to quote earn a living. And I don't know. What do you have anything to say to that?
oh, absolutely. That would be a good topic to bring up a little later in the show. Um,
Okay.
but the short capsule of that is, um, I've been here in this particular town, which is a lot warmer than it is up by the Canada border where I have property. But I've been working here for 2 years, and so I got to the point I could buy a house. So I found this house that had some burn damage. You know, it's got a hole in the dining room floor. But
Mhm.
the house is all there. It's not like it burned completely to the ground or anything, and it's the type of thing I'm used to fixing. So it has 4 bedrooms. I'm expanding the bedrooms to put 2 and 2 together to make 2 big bedrooms, and adding 2 more large bedrooms, the same size on the back. So I'm going to have a hallway going down. So that means I got 4 rental incomes coming in. And there's a guest room in the garage. When I'm here, I can stay in the guest room. So those 4 incomes will bring me $3,000 a month. And I'm putting female veteran renters that each have 1 child and no husband and are on the street. And those kind of people can get rental assistance. So that helps me to have an income, and I can use the income to do the repairs, and voila. So that's my economic plan, but that will then allow me to travel. So that's
Mhm.
something anybody could repeat, and there's plenty of information on the YouTube about how to do real estate. It's not that difficult. So getting back to our subject, our actions are connected to the past, and everything we do, every situation you find yourself in is connected to the past in some ways. What you do right now will echo the history like ripples in a puddle after someone throws a rock into the water. Your actions radiate outward and influence events both in near and far. Each man is the fruit of all the men, and a necessary of all men, and a necessary part of what went before. You have not been able to change your character or escape from your actions, because your character is formed by your actions because of a habit that was established by previous acts and habits, a kind of force that controls people's lives. When a person ascends to the fifth dimension, he is no longer in the realm of cause and effect. I studied a philosophy started in Japan by superintendents of schools, formed an organization, and they dedicated the organization to this law of cause and effect. So I joined that organization like 25 years ago. And you look at your life, take a few minutes out every morning and look at your life in terms of what causes you're making, what effects have you gotten, and what causes do you want to make now for your future. So it's a very interesting organization. So when a person ascends to the fifth dimension, not being under cause and effect, they become completely unpredictable in their existence becomes beautiful, and they begin to live each moment with their free will. This is what Siddhartha felt under the Bodhi tree. He was no longer a slave to karma. The longer no longer a prisoner of causality and of calculations and consequences. He was free from all that. Nevertheless, life still went on. So even though he gained this enlightenment, which basically means a new point of view of what you think about, his life still went on. And that's how it is with the fifth dimension. Nothing stops. We're just into a space where a lot of the wiring of the third dimension has been removed. And we're left with being responsible for ourselves and working together as a planet. So a lot of what's coming up now is coming up because it needs to come up so people can see it. And that is helping a whole lot of people wake up. I mean, you can't see what's going on with this administration compared to the previous administration. There's a sort of a black and white difference. And even people friends I have that voted, admit they voted for this current president, who is the former vice president, are having buyer's remorse. So it's a time.
I'll say.
Yeah. So it is great, actually. If you look at it positively, it's a great time for the planet. So that is why I stress the importance of consciousness. Once you ascend to the fifth dimension, every time you act, it's a question of repeating previous actions. So you have complete free will now, and it's up to you to act, and no one can predict how you will act. It is a new dimensional life. Still, many people can't understand what is meant by spirituality. They have lived only in a one-dimensional movement from the known to the known. Now you have to move from the known to the unknown. And that seems to them as if you are mad when you bring that up. You are madly dancing upon a volcano. In fact, it is the only answer to the whole puzzle of existence, that we go beyond the dual, I can't even read that word I wrote down.
Duality.
Yeah, duality and absurdity, into a new dimension of being where you are. Actions become dances beyond words. You are present. You are not creating any future, because you are already in the present. So if you act consciously now, the whole thing is different, and it carries its own intrinsic beauty. This is what ascension is all about. Ascension is not about some future achievement. It is about becoming conscious of the present now. Ascension means becoming conscious of what you don't know, which is your consciousness itself. When you don't succeed, try again until the sheer weight of numbers involved creates a resounding success. You have heard this thought expressed many times in your youth, and it is valid in your in your world. Now, don't lose faith in the light. Do your part to facilitate and return to love and human grace in action. In groups, communities, you are intensely powerful. Don't hide by yourself or in judgment or in aggression of any kind. The universe will stop at nothing to get your attention and encourage you to fulfill your soul's destiny. You may feel agitated, but you should know that all these catalysts are designed by your soul to bring you into a new level of evolution. The angelic dimension is available for you to see. What we are choosing on Earth's fifth dimension allows harmony to flow and divine love into your being. This can impact the amygdala in the temporal part of your brain in ways that resume your original blueprint of DNA. And over the years, your fear centers have become overstimulated by the beliefs that are around on Earth and also by the electronics. You hardly can look any direction now and not see somebody holding their phone up to their head. Much of the information is designed to cause panic, PTSD, and more psychiatrics have become rampant now. Now is an expansion in the perception is as though the veil has parted so that new clarity is now dawning on all of society. This increase in clarity incites liberation and freedom of spiritual expression. Prayers for the earth to receive benefits is much needed right now. Lovingly remove yourself from those who intent is intimidating for you and focus on love and light within. Others of your energy will gather around you. You are all one, and that contact remains entwined in your two fields. Be kind and compliment others who have passed and stopped to speak to you. Those actions will unite, which is very important in these times. When designs separate us and pit one of us against another, create oneness and extend this to remove fear. The courage of all extends to the new earth, which is already here.
Random acts of kindness.
Yes, exactly. So they conclude, precious, dear humans, we are all around you, supporting you with our light. We know you will succeed in this mission that you signed up for. It is a time of change of reality through the energy centers within you. As these perceptions hit the coding of your body like a caterpillar into a butterfly, you will continue to receive unlimited abundance in your life from what you have received in the fifth dimension. God, the creator, is present inside each of you at all times. And these are words from the Intergalactic Federation, the founders race who actually came here to see this planet. It's a race or an organization of 24 different races of race seeders, not raceful seeders, but 24 groups of people who see life around the universe. They started with Lyra, then moved out into the rest of the solar system. And
those were lovely pictures. Thank you for that.
Yeah, have a passion to spend your life. Is how they concluded. They believe in passion. Passion and picking something that you can relate to, that you like to do. Art, music, any endeavor that you resonate with. Don't stay at a job that you can't stand. Use that job to springboard into something else that you do like. And
yes, I've seen that actually call people. I don't know why we have a bad echo right now.
I don't know.
I've got my
I
speakers turned way down,
I
so it's not
asked
for me.
famous. Yeah, I turned mine down a little bit. There was a famous man in Japan called Daisaku Akedo, who's a philosopher. I once asked him, I think it was somebody that was sitting next to that asked him actually, what's the secret to being able to travel? You were mentioning travel. And he said,
Mhm.
oh, it's not very complicated. He turned around and stopped where he was walking and looked right at us and said, set a date and go. And everybody
Wow.
started cracking up. They're expecting this voluminous, a complicated answer, but really it's not any more complicated. So it's
Well,
amazing.
I find it, if I wanted to make a trip to Tibet or to Africa or to one of those places of that nature, I could set a date, but I don't know how I'd pay for it.
Oh
I
no,
guess.
it's
I don't know.
we could email and work that out. It's really not that difficult. I've been to Tibet and I've been to Africa. And I left New York and I went through all of the Spain, Portugal, Italy, Cyprus,
Well, see, like all
Israel.
of those different places, I would love to be able to
Yeah.
have traveled more than I did, but I guess I don't know how to properly manifest those things because the financial block always seems to be in the way. Um,
Well, when I
but
researched that, I came up with thought, word, and deed. What comes out of your mouth becomes the truth. So when you say I wouldn't know how to do that, I don't know how I would finance that. I can't see myself doing it.
that's
Then
exactly what
what you're gonna
happens, right?
get, that's exactly what happens. So I do the
Well,
opposite.
bummer. How do you get out of that?
Well, okay, let's see.
Well, I guess we've been kind
Do
of hardwired in certain areas in our subconscious, and that's like you were saying, um, repair and remodeling estimator.
Yeah,
Okay.
everybody has a special book, and you expect it to be like a little book that was written on in the 1800s. That's their favorite book. Well, this is a book I use every day. It's called the National Repair and Remodeling Estimator, and it's basically the Bible of. And I use the 2013 one because the contractors in town use the 2022 one now, and their prices are a lot higher than me. So when I bid a job, I always get the job because I got the best price. Because I use a 7-year-old book. But it's so, and it says on the first page here, I wrote, I'm so happy and grateful that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. That's what it says on the top of my estimating book right here. I wrote that out. And then down a little farther, it says, I'm also grateful I have in my possession $1 million. Now, it isn't what you wrote, you can go to the corner of your room and pick it up and show to somebody. That's not what it's saying. It's saying that is my statement of the worth of what I do that I'm using to manifest whatever my goal is. So if my goal is to travel, it shouldn't take much longer than getting one house
I need
done.
to
And
start charging. I need to start charging for my videos.
well, one of the first thing I was listening to, I was trying to remember his name. He just does interviews. He's a younger man. He's about 45. Does great interview shows continually. Every week he puts out like 6 or 7 interview shows. But
I put about 3 or 4 every week,
yeah,
and
it's a
there's no
lot. It's a lot.
compensation.
It's a lot to do.
It
But
is a lot of work.
yeah. But anyway, what one of his guests that he had on just a couple of days so said, start charging more for your time. Whatever it is, you look at what you're charging and what you're doing for your work, whatever you're making videos, you need to get paid. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a contractor. I need to get paid, and
Mm-hmm.
I vastly shut down during this pandemic because I didn't want to keep going to strange houses where I didn't know if somebody was sick or not. So my income dropped right down to just a few dollars above my cost per month because I wasn't willing to take on jobs in a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So now
Well, I'm not willing to wear, one of these
I just
things or
got,
do this, but I'm not sure why we're getting an
yeah.
echo, but
Well, you were telling me you have several options, so you have to look at your options and see what you want to do.
yeah.
So it's
Well,
I
I like to be
always
able
expected
to
if we ever
think.
did get contacted by ETs.
I think it would be nice if we could depend on love and gratitude donations, but I've been finding that that's just not possible. So, um, and love and gratitude are two of the highest vibrations around. So, I think people should be aware of that.
Yeah, gratitude's a real winner.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. And I'm here to say I'm very grateful for the people that have contributed to the show and my efforts.
All
And
right.
but anyway, I don't want to dwell on that. But I think we've been kind of hardwired into fear, and and it's in our subconscious. And regardless of what kind of fear it is, um, and getting out of that hardwire mode is challenging. But that's where people go inside themselves and find a way to transmute that and get past it and know that the
I
universe
think a lot of it
provides.
is picking a plan and moving. You pick a plan and move forward on your plan. You get busy and you don't have enough time for fear. You
Yeah.
have less fear if you're busy doing stuff that's especially things that bring you income. So I think
Mhm.
that's the
Well,
that's
I
the
just
goal.
have some issues
And
with that
I
because I
can't.
don't. Oh, a lot of echo again. Where's the echo coming from?
I don't know.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Anyway.
It's
I have my
coming from
speakers
his
turned down as
system.
far as I can get.
When you talk, there's a delay between you and him, and then that gets sent back to you, and that's why you hear a delay.
Oh, okay.
So so every time you switch from one person talking to another person talking, there's an echo there until the echo cancellation can catch up.
We haven't had that problem in the past, though. Why is it happening now?
There is a significant delay between you and him, and I'm not sure if normally there's a significant delay. We'll just power through. We'll push it. We'll push on and we'll
Okay,
do the best we
let's get
can.
back to galactic topics because that's what said we were going to talk about, and I would really like to know more about um, what what kinds of questions you would ask galactic beings or ETs from different planets, and
Well,
the kinds of answers you would
I
get.
tend to
So,
ask some of the basic questions. Viking on my show usually asks some much more complicated questions. It gets more complicated answers, but I always like to know, how do they get around? The one group mentioned that they'd come from Japan to the United States, and now they've been staying in the United States. And so I want to know right away, what they take an airplane? How'd they get from there to here? Do they have a little spacecraft hidden somewhere in the backyard, maybe in the garage? So I ask real basic questions. Two ladies. Well, we've had two sets of two ladies. Two of the ladies were Saranan. Their race, their planet, they call themselves Saranan, and they they both work in Las Vegas as dancers, which is kind of interesting. They rent a house. They pay for the house from their income from being dancers. They say it was a real almost automatic choice for them because they're much more limber. I mean, they're human bipedal. They look like us pretty much. You'd pass them on the street, you wouldn't know they were ET. But they can, like, I can only reach so far, and that's the normal reach. But if you're double jointed, people who are can reach twice as far. They can bend more.
mhm.
Well, their
I've seen some
physiology
videos
bends.
of people doing some things that just look like, whoa, are they human? So
Yeah,
now
they're
that just
looking
explains it.
impossible. Right. So anyway, they're quite happy, and they were talking about being here. They're also doing some research on Earth for their race, And then another group of two sisters live in a spacecraft which is parked up on the top of a flat mountain, one of those peaks, tabletop mountains, in a place that's not too easy to get to. And sitting right on the top of it, you can't see the top of it, and it's not something you would climb or there's a road by. So they just park there, and then when they want to go someplace else, they just scoot along to where they want to go, and they park their craft someplace where they can put it just out of our dimension so people wouldn't see it. Anyway, that's the way they explained it. So I would have expected, when you talk to different groups on the earth, they all have different religions, and the different religions have different theories. And some of the religions don't seem to get along with other religions. But to a person, the kind service to other ETs don't seem to have any religion.
That's what I was just going to ask you. But you just answered my question.
Yeah, they have an awareness of the creator. The creator being defined as all there is, And so
Source.
The creator's experience a lot is experiencing what we're doing. They experience our lives, and no, they don't peer at us during private moments. Not that I was that worried, but well, that does come to mind. So no, they wouldn't be, if you're a family person, they wouldn't be prying. But they are sincerely and generally interested in us, our family, our children. And there's whole races now of children being born, a lot in the Middle East. But they don't recognize themselves as, oh, I'm born into an Arab country, so I'm an Arab. Or if I was born into an Israeli country, so I'm a child of Israel. They don't have that concept, much to the consternation of their parents, who would rather they did. But that is this new group of children that's been coming in for the past 20 years doesn't have that, and that's going to solve the problem in the Middle East, where everybody tries to go by religion.
That's interesting, because there was some other guest, and I can't remember who it was right now, that was talking about that very thing, that the children weren't identifying with a particular area or a particular religion. They were just there. And I don't think they have borders in space to speak of. Maybe there's territories and so on. I'm not sure. I'm no expert on that, but until I've been there.
Yeah, they get along quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Michael Sala's show that he put out, you mentioned while we were talking before the show. I listened to most of it with Elena Dunn. She went in last October. She went, not this year, but 2020. She went to Gamma for a meeting. And the meeting was with lots of different extraterrestrial races, and also with the founders. The founders are the people that started seeded life on Earth. And there's an entire fleet of hundreds of ships now, which are just now arriving at Earth. And they are the celestial component. The ships are gorgeously beautiful. And there's, I don't know, thousands of visitors that are coming for this transition that's happening this month.
And it's an actual physical transition, correct?
It's physical. Yeah, it is. And what they're doing to start with, matter of fact, the meeting that she went to on Gamma was about how they were going to do a soft disclosure. And basically the idea is they're going to start, well, right now there's tens of thousands of ships in the Earth's atmosphere with people on them, all different kinds of people from all over. And a lot of these ships are, they can do these really quick movements. So they're going to start doing more and more of that. And so as about 6 weeks or a couple months go by, they're planning to have more and more ships visible. Kind of like how it is at the Sea City Ranch that I went to last summer. and we could sit out in the pasture there. It's right by Mount Adams. And so you bring your folding chair and set it up in the pasture, and you're looking at the face of Mount Adams. And this one ship, well, there were clouds in the sky. It was the following morning, actually, it was a morning when this happened. And the sky had a lot of individual white clouds in it. And the wind was as normal coming off the ocean. So that means any clouds were coming from the west and moving towards the east, because that's the way the wind blows when you're close to the seashore where Mount Adams is. And what happened is this one cloud was pointed out to me by Viking, the host of my show that I do on Fridays. And he said, look, is anything different about that cloud? And I'm looking at it. And then I realized it was the only cloud in the sky that was moving towards the west. Every other cloud was going with the wind. And then I had a download a little earlier that I said I would like to see not only your ship, but who's driving it. I was being funny, but I was being serious.
I want to see the pilot.
They said you'll be able to see. And so a little bit of the technology, why they can move around inside a cloud and they don't poke out of it, is what they do is, like your refrigerator works, right? It's refrigeration we've had for 100 and some years. And what it does is it takes the heat from inside the refrigerator and it expels it to the outside of the refrigerator. So it's just a refrigeration cycle, which is common technology everybody's not surprised by. So what the ship does is it cools the exterior metal of the ship to be much colder and projects that out about 15 feet. If you make it cold enough, it'll go out about 15 feet. So the air, whatever the vapor point is, the dew point that day, whatever temperature that is, all the air that falls below that temperature around the ship turns into a cloud just outside the ship. So you can't see the ship. All you can do is see the white cloud that's formed around it. And that's their stealth technology, is simply refrigeration.
How simple.
So that was quite interesting. And I got
What
a
races
glimpse,
were
and
these?
it's Octurian. It was an Octurian battleship. It was 3.5 miles long.
Whoa.
That's big.
Yeah, it is.
If you saw something 3.5 miles going down the freeway, that would be big.
Yes.
But it was
would be big.
about maybe 800 or 900 feet, 800 or 900 feet above us. But
Octurian, huh?
Everybody, all these ET races seem to be they're all interesting. The interviews are all interesting, but they have this general tone of not being preachy or demanding. And almost every question you ask them, they find a way to answer it that's very positive and gives you the information you want straightforward without a lot of, you don't get the feeling that somebody's pulling your leg, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people today, if you watch the mainstream media, you'll see people, right? About 4:00 in the morning, the narrative goes out for the day. And then every station that's a part of the mainstream media repeats the same narrative.
Mockingbird Media, hence the name.
Becomes rather obvious.
Yeah.
So I understand that that's basically going away over the next months. Yeah, the mainstream media needs to be terminated.
Yeah, it's been lying to the people way too long.
So
and plus it is also there's patents within it that have mind control and programming that actually get into people's subconscious that they're not even aware of, and it's not for their benefit.
Right. Trump released 6,000 patents, or patents as the English say. So they're all in the public domain right now. So you can use any of that technology and read the patent to get the technology.
Where would people find that?
In the United States
Patent
Patents
office?
Office, it's online,
Okay.
and
Oh, okay.
they're all categorized by what type of technology is.
Mhm.
So if you see a title that's interesting, you can just pull up the patent and read it.
So if I wanted to look up
It's another
teleportation,
area to research. Yeah, yep, there'll be a patents on it. And now once it's patented, then they have to pay the person or get permission to use the technology. It's
I
not
thought
supposed
this
to
was
be to let people steal the technology.
I thought this was going to be all
Well, the
free.
patent office now is, well, it is now, but it wasn't. It used to be before the internet, you had to physically go to Washington, D.C., which I did when I was graduating high school, or actually the summer before. I went to Washington, D.C., and then to New York. And going across the country, the person that was giving us the ride when we shared the driving in a Volkswagen bus was a school teacher, and he was connected with Catholic theater, and so he knew where they see in the summertime Catholic theater all over the country. Each community has a play they're putting on, and so we knew where the plays were, and we took our route in such a way that we got to see all these performances we wanted coming across the country. And then when we got to Washington, D.C., we got to see the Broadway plays there, which were great. And so it was a really, really successful trip. And, you know, children should have the opportunity to travel, not only across their own country, but around the world.
Oh,
It
I couldn't
really
agree
changes your
more.
perspectives.
It it broadens your horizons, so to speak. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
well, how about what do other galactic races do as far as finances are concerned?
Well, in space, money isn't really used. They don't have
I
a
didn't think
monetary
so.
system. So there, a lot of people in space are traders, and a lot of races trade silver. Actually, not they don't want our paper money. It's totally worthless to them.
Huh. Well,
So
we may be having a burning
I would
fire
think it
at
would
some
get,
point
yeah,
where we
you
burn
would think
the
if
fiat money.
they're yeah, if they're trading with silver, I would think their ship would get progressively more heavy as they went from planet to planet.
Well, except for the fact that they motor around where there isn't any gravity. The only gravity that exists is the artificial gravity in the ship.
Yeah, and the momentum of the ship to get it slowed down or speeded up. I've read several patents and explanations of anti-gravity technology, and I understand it on a superficial level, but it's I'm still working on that one. They also fold space in front of their ship. There's a jump gate that's off of Ceres. Ceres is kind of the largest moon in the asteroid belt. But
You
as our
mean
Horizon space probe went by it a couple years ago, it flew by. One of the craters has, you can see it if you look at it in a telescope from the Earth. It's got a couple of real bright spots over craters. And that's because inside that crater, which now the walls of this crater are like 200 feet tall, and it's got geodesic domes. And the lights come from the street lights and the lights of the structures inside the geodesic dome. And it was a dead giveaway as the Horizon spacecraft flew by. When it got to the point where the sun was setting over the side they were leaving, the sun was below, the shadow was, sunlight was above the 200-foot crater, but the geodesic domes weren't. So the sun couldn't have been lighting the the NASA said it was white sand in the crater and the sun was reflecting off of it. But
Well,
once
NASA
the sun was
lies.
setting, exactly. Because once the sun was setting, that couldn't be the case if the walls were 200 foot high and the buildings inside were geodesic domes. They were lit by the streetlights. And the people that are inside there who live in those domes, they run a jump gate that's operated from the control rooms and the houses in the crater. And the jump gate is, very close to Ceres, but, off in space. And so they keep the fields going that allow a ship to come in. They sent us a message. They sent the Earth a message, build a spaceship and come, use our jump gate, and you can jump from the jump gate to anywhere else in the galaxy you want to travel to. And when you get out there, the gate you come out of is the point you can go back into to return. And boy, that saves a lot of gas.
Yeah. Well, it's my understanding they have jump rooms that can jump, like if you wanted to jump from, say, wherever you're at to overseas, for example, or
Right.
anywhere in the country, you could just boom, go. Now that would be awesome. But that's a technology that I think
Yeah.
is supposed to be available that in that maybe in that patent office that has been suppressed and kept from people because of all the different industries, like planes and trains and cars. And I mean, if you had a bunch of jump rooms all over the place, what would you need all that for?
Yeah, that technology was put together by TRW, which is a company in El Segundo, California, Redondo Beach, right in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of by LA Airport would be a good way to locate it. And so the first people to use it was one person that worked there, and his son went through the jump gate, and they came out in the year 1837, and they were in the audience to listen to the Gettysburg Address. And then they came back.
Oh,
well, that was quite the trip.
Oh, who was that? But Passaggio or something like that, or was that someone else?
It was about 5 years ago that I remember reading all that.
Oh, okay. I heard something to that effect. I don't know all the details,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's very interesting.
It's well known.
Well, was that what they wanted to do? Did they want to go back?
Yeah,
in
they
time?
wanted to go back in time, and so they picked an event that was back in our history of the United States, in some place that would be safe to go to. Obviously, you might not want to go to Salem when they were burning witches, because if you suddenly appeared and shock somebody, they would think you were a
probably
witch
burn
and
me all
probably
over
burn you
again.
with a stick. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you dabbled in herbs and healing remedies and so on, I think you were considered a witch. And
once that technology gets released to the public, I think that's going to put a whole new meaning on the term class field trip.
Yeah, really, a real field trip.
Yeah,
Right.
not what you read in the history books. Let's go look at the actual thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really.
When I was in the Coast Guard, I was in the stations around Boston and Connecticut and so forth. So I was working in my days off. We were like 4 days off and 3 days, 4 days on and 3 days off. So it made a week. So I was working on a house, and I was painting the house. Well, it turned out in order to paint the house, there's only 7 colors you can use in that town. So, and it's determined by the Historical Society. And I didn't know. So
You painted it the wrong
came
color,
by
right?
and they put a ticket on the house. I had not one of the approved colors. So
Wow.
from after that point, they were jumping up and down a lot, so we used to call them the Hysterical Society because they got all excited if you did something and it didn't. The whole town, all the houses look like they could be 150 years old. You know, I mean, they're well kept, but they're all in the style of that era of building, clapboards and I mean, the whole town looks nice, but
Interesting. Well, what are some of the other things that you learned about galactic races in your interviews? Anything that really stands
well,
out?
basically, yeah. I mean, they have a much wider perspective than we do. I think is the main characteristic.
Is that kind of like
And
saying
each
we're narrow-minded?
no, it's kind of like the saying they're looking down from a higher viewpoint when they come visit.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, each race is different and has, it maybe a certain art and music in their culture, and that's what they specialize on as a species or as a
Mm-hmm.
planet. And
What?
there's quite a few that live in space. They don't have a planet. We've interviewed some that have already their planet got blown up, and so now their race is living in space on ships and traveling.
They can do some pretty miraculous things on those ships, from what I understand. Like how,
Yeah,
I mean, it looks like it looks real. I mean, or it is real to them, I'm sure, but the ships are huge and they have like just about everything you would have on Earth. Is that true?
yeah. Actually, we have 4 aircraft carriers that don't go in the water. No, I think there's 6, but each one has 4 scout ships. There's 4 doors on the side, and they travel in space. And when they're made in Idaho and Montana, and they're manufacturing a facility that's inside of a mountain, basically, and there was a large door constructed. So when the ship is all ready to go, the door opens. And they probably timed that so there's no visitors, there's no roads there. So the ship comes out, and when it gets clearance, it hovers for a couple hours getting ready, making sure everything is running okay. And then the door closes, and they get clearance, and it just goes boop, and it's gone. And this is
Wow.
like a huge, huge vessel with 4 smaller shuttlecraft, 2 on each side. Because when they get to another planet or wherever they're going, they might not want to land, depending on what's growing there, but they might want to go down with a shuttlecraft. So Gene Roddenberry got a lot of information. He got the template for Star Trek from the Founders, and the Founders is the race that's coming back to visit Earth now.
Is that the race Alana was talking about?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on yeah, I could post it in the chat. It's all you have to do is go Michael Sala's Exopolitist site, and it's the one that was just posted today with Elena Denan.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it all. I
And
saw a little bit of it, but I didn't see most of it. And
yeah, I saw a little
she's
bit
had
more
the
of it while you were having something to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She
it's
was
great.
she's had the privilege of seeing a lot of things through her Pleiadian
Yeah, and her education keeps
contact.
continuing because yeah, uh, Val Thor, I think, is her contact
Yeah,
up there.
yeah.
He keeps
Valdic.
beaming her up and giving her more information. And then this one time she was talking about, she went to Ganymede, which is a moon of Jupiter, and Jupiter looks amazingly large from Ganymede because it's such Ganymede is just a little smaller than our moon, but Jupiter is so huge comparatively, and the moon is so close that it takes up a huge part of its sky. And then in the sky, if you look off to one side, there's a little tiny red dot in the sky, and that's Earth.
Hmm.
You know, from there, if they look at it with a telescope, it would look blue, but at that distance, I guess it looks red. We
You know,
look red.
it just something just came to mind about size. You know, they've been trying to project onto people the belief that the Earth is overpopulated, which gives them the authority, the controllers who are no longer controllers, but gives them the authority to reduce the population in whatever manner they see fit, and but if I understand things correctly, if Gaia chose to expand her size, that would never be an issue anyway. Like as the
Right,
population
and
expanded, she would expand with the population because
right. And if we're
so
splitting into the fifth dimension, we're splitting away from the third dimension and into the fifth dimension. And
are
so
we
I'm
bypassing the fourth?
well, the fourth is a transitionary.
Mm-hmm.
For the past couple years, those people that are transitioning or have been in the fourth dimension. It's
Oh,
it's
okay.
a way to get from the third to the fifth.
Okay.
And there's a lot of
Now,
entities that just live in the fourth dimension. There's a lot of ghosts and people that are lingering and didn't move over to the other side completely. That all happens in the fourth dimension. But it's not
Yep.
like a permanent dimension for incarnated people.
Yeah,
We
it's a
can move through
transitional
it as we
dimension.
raise our vibrations.
Yeah, well, with respect to the population, I don't believe them anyway, because we haven't been able to believe anything that they've said for hundreds of years.
exactly.
Okay, and
Even the
you know,
numbers.
they talked about global warming until they actually figured out that people were tracking the temperature. So then they had to rename it to climate change. And
Yeah,
I don't believe there's 7.8 million people on this rock. I don't believe it.
billion. Yeah. Yeah, I don't either. And even if there were, it's obviously how could all of them fit in Texas or in Alaska if that was the case, you know? And so how can you call it overpopulated? What's happening is they've been destroying the planet. They've been terraforming the planet for the last 25 years with the intention of getting rid of humanity and bringing in another race, with only a few humans left that were basically cyborgs. So that's not happening though, and that's one of the reasons why we've had as much galactic help as we've had, as I understand it. And Elena has written that one book that we will never let you down, and that was
Yeah,
from
right.
Thor, and I like to believe that's true. But we really were the balance between the good and bad had gotten way out of hand,
Thor
and we've
had.
been manipulated in so many different ways. It's not even funny, but things are shifting to a much better situation. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the people that are uh, awake and aware are the ones that are transitioning more readily into the fifth. The ones that refuse to look at anything outside of the box that they live in they're either going to stay or be put on a 3D planet, or
Yeah,
they're going to
a lot of the
trans
ships that are here are going to be transporting those people. They'll they'll be basically put to sleep and taken to a new Earth. There's several Earth categories.
so they're
So
choosing basically to stay in a third dimensional
third
realm.
dimensional place, right? But not necessarily Earth. And then as we
Okay.
transition into the fifth dimension on Earth, we'll still be on Earth, but the in the fifth dimension, colors look different. There's more colors that you can see, and it'll take a lot getting used to.
Okay, well, the planet needs a lot of cleanup too, but I've been told or read that the technology exists through the higher dimensional races um, to be able to take care of that
Yeah, to
in a
clean the
matter
planet.
of in days at the most. Is that true? Is that?
I think it'll take more than days, but yeah, they're gonna. Well, there's a huge amount of plastic in the ocean now that this pandemic has happened. There's an extra burden of
Oh yeah, those things that.
post-pandemic garbage that got thrown in the ocean.
Yeah,
All
yeah. I've
those
seen
masks.
piles.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen
yeah.
piles and piles of that
But
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it'll basically be clean. See, when you see pictures of it, it's all floating on the surface, and you don't want porpoise and things to eat it or whales or whatever. But
Hmm.
you can simply design a ship or put a ship out there, which has a long opening in the front and is like a funnel going through the water, and then it catches the plastic and all, and has a porous belt which goes up and dumps it into the hold. And then when the hole gets full, it's cleaned a huge area, and then it goes to a place where they can landfill it. So, and
Hmm.
that's technology we already have.
Wow. Because I would think ETs could just disintegrate it somehow, make it disappear.
Well, they could probably do that, but
Yeah,
then they could also scoop it up, grind it up into little itty bitty bits, melt it, compact it, compartmentalize it, and then drag it ashore and bury it, or convert it to some other
yeah, right.
energy
I,
source.
Well, you
yeah, I don't
if
like the
it's
idea of
plastic, you
burying
can
it.
process it. No, no, they can process it. They can simply remelt it down. See,
Yeah.
I'm making my own roof shingles. I'm using uh, concrete, but with very little bit of sand. And if you ever try to take a styrofoam cup and grind, and just keep messing with it until it's all little white pieces,
Hmm.
it just turns into little things about the size of pencil leads if you just take a cup and grind it. So
Hmm.
there
Yeah,
you can
it's
buy
aircrete.
huge bags for very little. Yeah, and
Oh,
you make very lightweight concrete. So I'm making a facade that goes around the house that I'm going to be renting, so it looks like pictures of an Italian villa. You know how a villa looks. I mean, they're mostly flat walls, and then there's usually a spot where the plaster has fallen off, and you can see bricks in there, which are red
Hmm.
below it. And then they have kind of rough-looking wooden shutters around their windows, and their doors look like they're put together by boards.
Hmm.
So when I'm not building, I do movie sets or theatrical sets. I worked on one of those sets that Biden um, stays at. He doesn't. When you see him in the Oval Office, he's not actually in the White House. He's on a set in Virginia, not too far from Washington D.C.
Castle Rock.
But anyway, when I look at it, I can tell the difference between his set and the White House
Oh, so can we.
itself is
Paul
basically
and I had done a
closed.
show on that in the past.
Yeah,
The fake inauguration in
and
the fake movie set. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And there's about five around. There's one in Dallas. There's one out in LA, of course, in Hollywood.
Hmm.
There's one in the Southeast, another one in Florida. So they're kind of handy, I guess, if you wanted to film something and you didn't want to fly halfway across the country, you could just use the movie set. But
Yeah.
uh,
Well, one of the
working on
biggest
movies,
shames I think.
they're what?
I was just going to bring up the concept of, as far as building and construction goes, is we were prohibited from using hemp products through the different, you know, things that went on with the history of cannabis. And that's something that was very nefarious because it could have been used in so many different industries. From it makes stronger textiles, stronger
All
sails
right.
and ropes and all those things. But once they uh,
Mm-hmm.
started their campaign against reefer madness in order to boost their own industries, which are much less ecologically sound. Um, because there's so many benefits to hemp, and bamboo is another one too. Those two products are plants
Yeah.
are
Well,
amazing.
there are in Austin. There's houses being built in Austin, Texas, which are made out of hempcrete, which
Are
is
they
using
really?
the
Oh
hemp
wow,
fibers.
that's awesome. Yeah,
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 and
and
they're
they're
big blocks,
resist
but they're very lightweight, and they resist
and
everything. And they're like R40 insulation.
yeah, they
That's like
resist bacteria and mold and all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And now I worked on a house on the reservation up in North Dakota, uh, and they made a straw bale house. Now, straw bale houses have been built a lot, and they're very highly soundproof and heat. They hold the heat in. They're very inexpensive to operate, and you basically just pile up bales of hay. Not with the seeds in it, but bales that are made out of the straw. The part that you don't eat,
Right.
and they're
Well,
pretty inexpensive to buy them,
what about the flammable
and
nature of
they
that?
make great houses. Well, it's encased in concrete; it can't burn.
Oh, it is encased in
I
something.
mean,
Okay.
after you put
I
the
just
hilt,
thought,
yeah,
all right.
you put wire on it, and then you put 2 or 3 coats of concrete on it, and then it looks like a normal stucco house.
Oh, okay. Very fascinating. What kind of
Yeah, I think
living abodes do they have in what do other races have to live in if they have a planet to live
they
on? Let me put it that way. Not the ones on
yeah,
ships.
they grow their houses. I mean, the founders are basically genetic engineers, but people engineer plants how they grow, and you can make a plant which will grow into a house. So a lot of their houses are living plants,
Wow, that's
and
awesome.
then that way,
That sounds like
if
Hobbit
you
land.
yeah, if you have a couple more kids, you can just grow a couple more bedrooms. And
That's
there's
fascinating.
no
I would love to
monetary.
see all that. I look forward to being able to see some of these things.
Well, I think it's not going to be too much in our future till we can travel out and look at a lot of this stuff. And of course, movie making isn't a science that only happens on the Earth. So I'm sure a lot of video information from other planets going to start coming. We're just waiting on disclosure, and what this meeting on Gamma mean was about affecting disclosure. Because if you wait for the government to do it, it's never going to happen.
And that's for sure.
We've
The
been waiting
government
for
works
what
against
25
humanity.
years for this. Yeah, we've been waiting since Roswell for disclosure, and you know
Well, I
they're
guess
never going to land. You
they
need them
must
to land
be
on the White House lawn, right?
exactly. That's people have talked about that happening. I wish they would do it. I really do. And have some of the ETs they would never expect come walking out. If
Yeah.
you know who I mean.
Well, that's what's basically this disclosure is planned. It's basically planned to happen in 2022, during the first part of 2022. So I don't think we have long to wait.
I
I
sure
mean,
hope
I've
that's
always
true.
maintained that they should land. I've always maintained that the best thing they could do is land in Safeway parking lots. I mean, how
You
generic
mean
is
all
that, right?
around? Yeah, all around different
And then
places. Yeah.
you would get in line, and you could go in the front door and go through the ship, talk to people inside there, ask questions, and come out the other door.
Mhm. I they put out information that the ET races are afraid of humanity because they're afraid they're going to go pull out their shotgun, or something like that, which is insane. I mean, as advanced as
No,
those races are, I think they would have it control over that
no,
anyway.
they have technology which they're too nice to use on us. But the paltry things that we could do compared to the advanced level
What they
that
could
they
do is
have.
nothing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they could
Well,
stop
I'm
something like
totally
that in its
expecting.
tracks.
Yeah. Well, we have some technology. I just have the feeling in my bones. I can't remember if I saw a program or whatever, but I just really feel like the rods of God, which are basically inert, um, exotic metals that are basically just a big long solid pipe. And what they do is they take it up to the edge of space, and it's used as a weapon because they can accelerate it down. I mean, if you let go of something like that, it would fall down to the earth and probably make a 2-foot hole when it hit or whatever. But if you accelerate it down by putting a rocket on it and just keep accelerating until it hit, you can pick any spot on Earth and obliterate it with the force, because the impact that it creates is the mass of the object times the speed it's going. So from a big height, you can really accelerate it down. It doesn't have to be very huge. And
Well, I
so
heard they were going to use
on
the
what?
rods of God,
On the
so to
Three
speak,
Gorges Dam.
and a
Yeah,
number
on the
of
Three
other
Gorges Dam.
satanic buildings as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, yeah. I mean, my mind comes up with plans like that, but my heart isn't there. I don't want to see
What about the
anybody
loss of life? That's the
suffer.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many people south of the dam. Cities.
Exactly.
Well, right in Hunan, it's a city like San Francisco. It's huge, and then China is like, that's the Yangtze River. So every town then goes down to the next town, a huge number of people, then goes to the next town. So the last thing you'd want to do is cause any problem with any of the dams there. And the largest one there is the Three Gorges Dam.
Yeah.
And it
It's
has
unfortunate.
major cracks in the dam.
It's
I mean,
unfortunate
it's
that they can't take it down without causing, like somehow maybe removing all the innocent people that would suffer as a result of it. I don't
yeah,
know.
but if you look at the topography of anywhere in China, it's just amazing amounts of people who are always down river from something else. You know, I mean, I think what's going to happen is the political arm of the CCP. You know, I think the people in China, I understand they're being controlled and everything, but it's my feeling that at some point the CCP will just collapse, just of its sheer craziness. Because when that virus was released, it was released because the CCC people were there helping to run the lab. It was intentional. I mean, this is not new information. There's probably 30 really good documentary videos on that whole thing. So anybody that wants that information, it's available. And you know, I
Yeah,
think the
that
people in
the
our country love the people in China. We just don't like their political system. And I
yeah,
think the
it's the
people in
politics.
China would love to come and visit the United States and other countries too. And they're probably not too happy with the control that they're living under. And
Exactly.
all the countries are the same that way. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
unique.
it's the
All the countries,
people.
it's not just us. I
It's the
think our country will
people.
be leading the way to positive advances.
Yes. Yeah, I think a lot of people are
Yeah,
looking to us for that very thing, and it will happen. It will happen. I'm sure they've looked at all this
leadership.
through the looking glass technology, and they know what the future holds. And we have time travelers as well, that have traveled to the future, seen
Yeah,
what's going to happen on various timelines, and make whatever adjustments are necessary so that we um, are in the
yeah.
most positive.
That guy that came, his name was Teeter, John Teeter. He was a time traveler, and he came from our future actually, back to tweak something. He needed some kind of information that had to do with cobalt. That's something that was written, that the information wasn't available anymore, but it was still here in libraries. You could look it up. So he came back, and then he made several changes while he was here. And he got interviewed on a Coast to Coast, I think it was a late radio night program.
Is that
Very
recent?
interesting. Yeah, radio, late night radio with George Norrie.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You must have been up late some night and heard Coast to Coast on the radio at night.
Oh, yeah.
It comes on at midnight and runs for 4 hours. Yeah, it's a great show for insomniacs. You can put it on. And
I have some nights like
what
that.
I do is, yeah, I listen to KHVH, which is the Honolulu station, because see, they're 4 hours later. So what happens is they play the show when it starts, and then they play the same show right over again as soon as the 4 hours is up, because they're shifting the show later because, 4 hours, it starts at 8 p.m. Well, the kids are still up at 8 p.m. So they shift the show. But if you listen to it on iHeartRadio, you can listen to a radio program from anywhere in the world, and Coast to Coast is on the radio anywhere in the world. So in theory, you can totally control what time you listen to the show, unless you want to pay them some money, and then you can listen to it 24/7. But I'm on the computer researching so much. Yeah, you get all their archives. I'm on the radio so much that they have a good television show which runs too. It's very interesting.
Wow.
Most of my research is what's currently going on.
Well, and you know that he was really a time traveler. You know he was actually a time traveler because Wikipedia says John Teeter is a pseudonym used on several bulletin boards during 2000 and 2001 by a poster claiming to be an American military time traveler from 2036. If Wikipedia is saying it's not true, you know it's gotta be fact.
I know. It's true.
Well, something else I failed to mention when we were talking about Ganymede and Elena Danan, she was saying that on this most recent video before, I didn't get to hear it all, but about how there were it looked like American soldiers of let's see, there were the regular camouflage uniform, which would probably be the Army, and then there were also the blue, which I would venture to guess might be the Air
think
Force.
The blue is the secret space program.
Ah, okay.
The Navy's program. It's now called the Space Corps. It's called the Space Corps. It's yet another branch of the military now, and it governs comings and goings in space. But the United States Navy has been coming and going in space for the last 30 years.
For a long time. People are going to be so shocked about some of this stuff. We've just been kept in the dark for so long. And so unless you've done some heavy duty research and paid a lot of attention, because there's a lot of information out there that you can get on the internet, and people I guess some people just think it's not true because it's on the internet. When it's just the opposite. It's not true when it's on the TV. But, that's not to say there's nothing on the internet that's not true, because, there's also bad information there too. But when you start seeing things from several different sources and they're saying the same thing, it's just like I like to think if I've heard or read something at least three times, three different sources, it must be credible. Usually.
Yeah, I think ET craft coming down and landing in public locations for to be on display will help a lot. And the transition into that, I think, is going to be seeing a lot more in the skies, going slower and making it more obvious.
Mm-hmm. I understand that it's a concern
you've seen a couple hundred.
A concern of some ETs that people would decide to try to worship them, which would be a big mistake.
Yeah, I think we've gone past that point now.
I hope so.
They say that any technology that you don't understand to people will look like magic. I mean, 30 years ago, if you'd have told people about computers, tabletop computers, and the internet, it would sound so fantastic that something that sat on your table, you could talk to somebody in any place in the world in real time and exchange views and information. I mean, it's now it's commonplace, but I think that all technology ends up that way.
True, true. And if once the vibration gets high enough, and once more of our DNA is activated, humanity has some pretty profound abilities that have basically been turned off by negative races that will be turned back on, and people will be
Right.
amazed at their own abilities. It's just that they may need some schooling as to how to use it in proper ways. And are you familiar with that as well?
Which, using technology?
No, not technology, human abilities that will come online
Oh,
as a result of the upgrading and return of our DNA blueprint. Our
abilities. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
the information has come through now that says that, well, first of all, science is picking up these energy waves that are coming into our into Earth, that have coming from the sun, and they're generated in the central sun in the universe, beamed to our sun, and then from our sun it's turned and beamed towards the Earth. And we're in a couple of days now when they've stopped completely, and they'll start up again in this weekend. But the energy is creating the DNA to recalibrate. I mentioned that your amygdala gets triggered, and it helps get rid of fear and resets you back to your whatever your purpose is, that your soul, that you started out to do. So the med beds are coming out in February and March, medical beds that you lay on. The Lemurians had the form of that. They had these big, huge crystals, and that was the med bed technology. And this was millions and millions of years ago. And they put them in a big room like a pyramid, and they sent them around, and then they had wooden tables that they would set up near or above the crystals. And the people that needed to be healed for whatever, their medical technology was, they would come into the room and lay on the tables, and on the tables had, like, blankets on them.
That sounds
they
like
would lay on the
Pleiadian
table.
tachyon type technology.
Yeah, it's not an unknown technology, and it was displayed in South Dakota, the prototype, and a lot of people several hundred people got to use it and were vastly improved whatever their disease condition was. And the AMA, of course, got wind of it, and so they wanted to confiscate it. The AMA and other groups have confiscated a lot of technology over the years and
They're going to
hid
have
it
to be
away.
put down
But actually,
or out, I should say.
the Cryon is saying that the economic institutions like power companies who generate electrical power and sell it to the public will actually be the companies that see the writing on the wall, and they will finance this technology to come out of free power, even though you would think it would be contradict their plan. They'll be the ones that finance it, and it's the same with the med beds. So people would come in and lay on the med beds, which the wooden tables that they were laying on wouldn't stop the frequencies from the crystals come through, and it would heal the people that had whatever disease needed to be dealt with. The new med beds can regrow an arm, for instance, if somebody's lost their arm, like in a military situation or workplace accident or whatever.
Accident, yeah.
And not only see your DNA, when you were a baby, your DNA made your body, including the arm. So the information and code is in there to grow another arm. So the medbed allows you to grow the other arm, And then on succeeding visit, it allows you to grow it in increased size. Say if you're 25 years old, you wouldn't want the arm of a baby. So the med
Yeah.
bed then, through several more sessions, about 30 minutes, gives your body, your cells, the commands to grow the arm to the size it's appropriate for, say, a 25-year-old person. So, and then it also can regenerate internal organs that have problems, which is quite amazing feat because it doesn't. Those med beds don't do anything intrusive. They don't operate on you like a surgeon would. They use
Hmm.
sound and light
They like to
energy
cut out
in certain
parts.
ways that you haven't noticed. Yeah. So the AMA found out in South Dakota that these med beds were there and they wanted to come and confiscate them. So they rushed into the hospital through the different entries into the hospital to seize the technology of the med bed. But luckily, the med beds were actually out in the back parking lot. They went past the blood mobile that was parked out there, never suspecting. I mean, why would you go raid a blood mobile because you know what's in it? But what was in it was the med beds. And so it slowly pulled away and went off into the sunset while they were searching through the hospital looking for the med beds. So I thought that
Thanks for
was very, very
yeah.
clever.
Thanks for finding that and putting that up, Paul. That's a good thing there. That's the guy you were talking about, isn't it, Conrad? John Teeter, or Titer, on Coast to Coast.
Yeah, coast to coast. Yeah,
Yeah, it was Thursday, March 20th, 2008.
yeah. Chris Jacobs has been on Coast to Coast.
Oh, has he?
Keith Roberts was on Coast to Coast. A lot of people have been on Coast to Coast.
Yep, coasttocoastam.com.
It's a little too small for my screen to read it, but yep.
Yeah, it'll come up full screen on the video when somebody's watching. We have a
So
little
those
bitty
old
window.
those old archives are available for people to listen to, correct?
Yeah, if you're a Coast insider,
Right.
now, see, you can go to our
Right,
one.
which is 15 cents a day.
Yeah, and it asks you to log in. So I already tried that.
Alrighty,
I
then.
used to be a Coast
Yeah,
insider.
yeah, and then they also have like a dating service. And years and years ago, I joined that, and 2 or 3 people came out to meet me. The first 2 I couldn't stand. But anyway, they now
I've always
have
been leery of
they're
that sort
reaching
of thing.
they're reaching. Oh yeah, spare me. But I think they're reaching 500,000 or something now. People that are in paranormal.com is the paranormal. And there's another one, conspiracydate.com. And now they have a special one for people that are incredibly old, senior.
Well, wouldn't it be
Paranormal
nice if
dating or
the med
something.
dads
Anyway,
do
George
age
Norrie.
regression technology?
Well, see,
That's supposed to be
the
possible
Navy's
too.
program is quite interesting because it's called 20 in return. So when you sign up for it, you do a 20-year term, but you don't come back and visit your family, for like days off or anything. You actually are off planet for 20 years. And then the last thing that happens to you in that program is they regress your body in age back to the age they took you. So if they took you, say, out of high school and you were 17, when they return you after 20 years, you're not 37, you're back to being 17. And then they give you pills and potions to take that help you forget about what happened over the last 20 years, so it's not bothersome. But can you imagine going back, rejoining your high school class when you're technically really 37 and going out on a date with some girl who's always been 17? It just seems like you would be babysitting.
Really? But you do
I
your
mean,
family and so
I,
on,
I
when you come back and they age regress you, are you back with the same, as if no time had passed?
Yeah,
yeah.
time
See, what happens
travel.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, they take you like on a Friday, let's say, and you're gone. And when they regress you in time, you're put back the following day, looking like you were when they took you the day before. So you just
That
sort
is
of
just
reintegrate into
mind-boggling
your
when you think
same
about
family.
it.
Yeah, and you're
That's
kind of in a dither because they've given you all these chemicals which screw with your memory. So,
that's unfortunate.
but it
That
is an
can't be
amazing
good for
program.
you.
Now you also have the choice to re-up again for another 20 years or to be returned back to where they took you from.
Well, if you don't
I
have
mean,
any memory of what it was like, I don't know that that would be fair. I mean, if you enjoyed yourself and knew it, that would be one thing. But if you didn't, that might be quite another. I don't know. I guess I'd have to
a lot
speak
of
to some
people,
people who experienced it.
yeah, well, there's several people that have been in the program and then have gone on to talk about afterwards
Messed
who
up people.
regain their memory or they use hypnosis to regain their memory.
Hmm.
So,
Well, people even have done that in order to recall past lives as well. Um,
hmm
Not everybody just
right.
automatically remembers things. But anyway, it looks like
Yeah,
we're
I
coming on.
how
Go ahead.
much time what do we
We're going on about an hour and 40 minutes almost. So
and how long is the show?
we're probably about where we like to start to bring it to a close, just
Yeah,
because it
Okay,
gets
that's
to
fine.
be hard to upload and so on.
catch a few
Yeah,
more topics,
sure.
take us back um, up to near the top of the hour. We've got about 14 minutes.
Okay, we can just keep going
Oh,
then.
okay.
We'll make it
You know, when
a 2 hour
I
show.
didn't to answer your question, I didn't ask the question of what was my previous life or anything, but I guess it was rattling in my head because um, I was in the hospital for 4 days for a minor uh, procedure, and this one nurse I really felt a past bond with, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. It wasn't like I was trying to date the nurse or anything. Far be it for me to do that. But what happens is I couldn't quite put it in place, and so our next show that Friday that got out on a Wednesday, um, they answered the question. They said you already have the answer to your question. You don't have to ask to just go within. And so when I took a few minutes and went within, we both left at the same time. We're twin souls, which is very interesting. And she picked a time to come in where she would be in the height this December of her career in nursing, helping people. She answered the call that went out in 2020. No, I mean, to the year 2000, the call went out to the entire galaxy for people to come to help Earth. And we both answered the call to come here, and she picked a date so she would be at the height of her career, but we left at the same time. Time is different on the other side. So I picked a date in 1945 because I wanted to be able, when this transaction happened, to have a little wisdom and be able to help people that didn't have a clue when the third
What
dimensional
was going on?
ground got yanked out from under their feet. So you can imagine how many people are saying they want to get back to the old normal. They don't want the new normal, and that 3D is being yanked out from under us. And a matter of fact, if you don't transition, it's going to be harder and more difficult to be a third dimensional person when this electronic mantle is put back up over the earth so that people can't come and visit the earth if they're in the third dimension. But also people that are here already and still in the third dimension are going to need to leave and go to another planet, or they're going to be not with us very long because the energy is going to be very anti third dimensional once we go into the fifth dimensional.
Will they
So
be able
that's
to
a big.
transition even though it might be difficult while they're still here, or they will absolutely have to go elsewhere? Is there any talk of that?
Well, all the help is here for people. That's why so much that's happening now is really important, so that people will wake up. And a lot of the information that's coming out is channeled information about how to wake up. And there's a lot of websites. If you can go on YouTube, and there's a search bar on YouTube. If you're watching anytime you watch a video, and you can put queries in there on
Well, that's
transitioning
why,
with the earth
yeah.
into the fifth dimension.
That's why I like to have guests like yourself and the guest I had on earlier, and many others that can bring the information forward for people to, at the very least, we can plant seeds so that people start to think about these things. And hopefully, if they're open-minded enough, they will delve into it even more. But that's basically what I'm trying to do while I'm here.
Right. And yeah, and that I'm here to help people, and I do that with my program that happens on Friday afternoons and coming on shows like yours. And what I'm saying is, if you're curious about these topics, use the search engine on YouTube videos, and it will guide you to look at videos on the topic. You simply just go down, and it'll give you like 40 to choose from.
And then there are
That's
other
basically research.
and there are other channels as well that aren't as censored as YouTube, like Rumble or Odyssey or BitChute.
Right.
You don't have to worry about, you'll get information that's not censored. And some people need to know about that, especially when it comes to certain topics that we have chosen not to talk about on this particular show, because we wanted to leave it open to the people on YouTube and Facebook and so on. So we avoid certain topics that we know are hot buttons that get you taken down.
Right. But two channels to go to are Higher Self. That's one. It talks about the higher self. And the other one that I would really recommend is DNA Awakening. So DNA.
That one is. I've seen some. That is a good
Awakening.
one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually most of my material comes from DNA Awakening. And it's a channel which helps you transition into the fifth dimension. They have little exercises you can do. They have other shows that they recommend, and all the information on DNA Awakening is a instruction book on how to move into the fifth dimension. I highly recommend it for anybody that wants to stay here and move into this wonderful space that we are creating this space together as a community. In spite of all the stuff that's happening in the news, the end result of where we're heading is all of this planet, all the countries working together and actually having world peace. I always hear about world peace. I've always heard about it for 30 years. But when does it start? I mean, what do we hold our breath or what? And so DNA Awakening brings you through that process.
I like that. I am you, you are me, we are one. How perfect. Yes.
DNA Awakening, that's the site right there. Copy this down, people. If you're listening to this show, write DNA Awakening. Just look at the screen right now. And it doesn't matter. Just what I always do is go to the second one is, see this little red line right below DNA Awakening? The second one over is videos.
Yes,
you
have
click
to
on
hit
that,
videos.
they'll be lined up by the most recent videos.
And you'll see all of them. Otherwise, you only see one row
On a lot
of
of sites, it's the same as the first one.
Yeah. Yeah. That I've noticed that, and I'm glad you brought that
You'll
up.
see a row that
Even
goes, there you go. See, there it is. Now, the bottom left one here is the most recent video. Then you go one over. The first one will say today. The next one might say 2 days. The next one might say 4 days ago. So you can, and then the title of each one of them are right in there, and the banner title are on the video. So any one of those sounds interesting, you just click on and listen to it. And of course, at the end of that video, they will post 2 more that they recommend you could listen to. So you could keep going for a research stream for days. And I think it's much more interesting than Coast to Coast.
Yes, and I'd
Coast to
like to
Coast
mention
good,
too.
really fabulous some nights. It depends on the guest on Coast to Coast. Some nights it's just riveting. Other nights, nah, maybe not so much. But their guest hosts are great. One thing about it is George Norrie always comes on holiday nights because he wants to put the personal touch. But they have about 7 different guest hosts that are just fabulous. A lot of whom have their own shows, like you do.
While he had that
Gail,
channel up there, the Free Range Gail of Gaia, when you go to that YouTube channel, you have to hit videos. I don't think a lot of people realize that you have to hit videos in order to see all the videos that have been put up, because there's
right.
There's well over 300 videos. I mean, I've been doing this for at least 5 years
I
now.
saw. I clicked on the wrong thing, and I just saw all these black videos. But
Black videos.
they
Not
were
on my
empty
channel.
when I went to your website. Well,
When you went to my website, or when you went to the
Oh,
YouTube channel?
yeah, you just have
When
to
I-
click in the black and give it a minute, and then it'll start playing the video. It'll download them because there is not an
gotcha.
embedded player
Okay.
on that site yet. So when you click on a video, your computer has to download it, then it plays it for you automatically. So
That's a
Gotcha.
common
Okay, well,
complaint
that's
I've
good
had,
information.
Paul. Yeah, it's
yes,
a common
and I'm
complaint I've had.
working on setting up an HTML5 video player. So I'm working on it. It's a widget. I'm working
Is
on the
it?
widget.
Yeah, or maybe
Something
you
that
could
you have
just
to.
put a little. If you could put a sentence in there that says "click on the video" and it will download and start.
Yeah, that
That's
might be a good idea.
quick way to solve it.
Because I've had other complaints, and this is where I'm not very video or savvy in terms of technology that way, and I also don't have the resources to. So this puts a lot on Paul, because he knows how to do these things, but. We do the best we can without resources, and that's why we ask for listener support, because we really do need it, and we can do better when you have more resources. You can do so much more. It's just the way it is.
I'm in the same spot. I bought a house for my economic plan. I bought a house with no money, and I'm fixing the house with no money.
That's
And
pretty
it's all
amazing.
working out. I just figured that yeah. Well, my theory is the universe will provide whatever I need. Everybody here that's listening needs to be confident in their ability to manifest whatever it is that they want, because the universe will do backflips, whatever it takes to get you what you want. You need to be clear on what you want, and then don't let anything sneak into your consciousness, like maybe I'm not good enough or whatever your mind comes up with.
I think it's more like, I can't afford
and
that.
Yeah, I know, but that's actually not true. I mean, when it comes up, there's always ways to afford things. And one of the best ways to afford things is to network. I found out that a local organization here in Texas has gotten a $500 million grant, and they're looking for individuals to work with that are working on projects. So I'm going to go visit them and present my project. And I'm also joining the Chamber of Commerce, not as a business, as an individual business person, because it's half as expensive. And they will actually put out ads for your business. And the local university here, ASU here, San Antonio State, Angelo State University, ASU, has people here that will help you if you come with a business idea like your show here and you want to promote it. They will help you put together a program to help make that happen. So I think there's a lot of resource out there, and we just need to keep our eyes open for what it is. And if there's a university in your town, go see them. They're free to talk to the individuals in those universities. They're there to talk to people in the public. So I think that's a great resource people don't think about.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I have thought about the
when I
possibility of going to the media production department and finding out if there are any students that might be available to help with promotional videos or whatever, all the different things that are done.
Yeah, I went to San Diego City College. I took classes in teleproduction at San Diego City College. And I can't remember what I paid, but it was almost free. It was the class that are open to the general public. Seems like all colleges have some community classes, and those classes. I mean, it started out where you passed the microphone back and forth, but very quickly it got into decent production. And so it's all good background, especially promoting business. Get what's in Sedona? When I drove through Sedona coming here, I
don't think they have a university that I'm aware of, but I haven't been here that long.
But the state does somewhere.
Oh yeah. Arizona State. There's a lot in Phoenix. There's a lot in Flagstaff. Or more in Flagstaff,
right?
But there's a couple. There is a place that says University of Sedona in Sedona that I've wondered about it. It looked. I don't know if it's. I think I looked at the program and it was kind of limited in terms of what it had to offer, but. I don't know. There's a lot of people here that are very capable. There are a lot of people here that are.
There's so much resources there.
I was going to say there's an awful lot of there's a lot of people in this town and community that are very capable of helping others too, and
right. It's networking. It's where it's at.
Yeah, it's gotta. Yeah, that's what you got to figure out where to network and who to network with and that kind of thing. Maybe get a sponsor or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't take too long. You just you know.
Sometimes it's Sometimes it's not what you know; it's who you know.
And there's a lot of money. Well, also there's all these programs that went out where it's causing all this inflation because they were so hugely expensive, but there was a lot of money packed into those programs to do this exact thing, is to help give people a head start in a business.
But now I know that here Airbnb has caused a lot of problems for housing in this area. A lot of problems. The rentals
Airbnbs.
And so on. And houses, yes, the prices have absolutely skyrocketed beyond reason.
Same here. I mean, I bought a house for $19,000, and I can turn around, just really paint it and fix it up, and turn around and sell it for $200,000. That's a pretty good markup. But I don't want to do that. I want to rent it out to 4 veterans that need a place to live, and will pay a normal rent, and that gives me the ability then to travel.
Well, I can't even imagine being able to buy a house for as little as $19,000. That's amazing.
It had a fire. And the family that lived in it, a week after the fire, her husband passed away from a heart attack from all the stress. And then a year to the day of the fire, her sister passed away. Her children went to live with their grandparents. And so the woman was all by herself in this house that had a fire she couldn't live in. So she moved to an apartment. And my real estate broker just bent over backwards to help her. She wanted to get net $11,000. So it turned out there were a lot of costs and back taxes that had to be paid. So he put the whole thing together for $17,000, took $2,000 for doing it. And I got the house for $19,000. And my payment on my note is $325 a month. there isn't a house on that entire street that's like 10 miles long that you can rent for $325 a
No,
month.
there's no
Rents are
such
more
thing
like
as
$1,200. But because he put the
exactly.
deal together and it's just a note of 19,000, the owner Rachel Gonzalez got the money that she needed out of it, and now I'm spending my time. The whole place is filled up with child's toys, all these little tiny toys that kids have, they're all
Mhm.
over the place. So, and they're kind of been laying around in the yard. So I found out that if you do your laundry at home or at the laundromat, you put your laundry in and you take a bucket of these little plastic toys and you put them in there with a few other things you can pick up at the dollar store, and voila, all those little toys come out looking brand new. You just throw them with your laundry in the water. It's crazy, but you learn things.
Then
And
you can give toys away for Christmas.
well, I'm going to use them in the rooms because I'm going to rent the rooms to women that have a child, right, that are veterans.
Oh, that's right.
So
Okay.
it's
That's
in a
another
very
same difference.
it's very appropriate decoration. I'll put shelves up in the rooms, and I just evenly distribute these little toys around. And when the kids move in, they're going to love the spot because everywhere they look, there's little toys to play with. I mean, what could be cooler? And
Well,
the
yeah,
women
our kids
veteran
will
will be
love
off the
that. Yeah.
street, which is great.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's funding for veterans, or actually, you don't even have to be a veteran. If you're a single mom or a single dad and you got a kid you're taking care of, there is money which will help you pay your rent. It's called Section 8.
Mhm.
I used to own some apartments in Oakland, and most of my tenants were on Section 8 for some reason.
Well, there are a lot of places. I doubt
Now,
that here in this part of in Sedona, I'm sure they wouldn't even allow
uh,
that. Um,
well, a lot of
they
landlords for some
fund you
reason
that
don't
way.
want to deal with Section 8. It's a little bit more of a bother. But, the rent money that the person is paying you through Section 8 goes into your account now. When I had it, they didn't. You had to be there on the day that they cash your check or you wouldn't get any money that month.
Mhm.
So that was a bother. But
Hmm.
now the Section 8 money goes into whatever checking account you want to pay your mortgage with. That money will go in there. So if you have 4 bedrooms and 4 separate rentals, um, that's called passive income. It's a different
Yeah,
show
well,
than this, but
yeah,
passive income is the way to
definitely.
go.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah.
And I
Those
love to
programs
network with
have
people too. So
those programs have deteriorated substantially over the years from what they
but
originally
there's brand new
intended.
programs now that just came out. I mean, we're spending crazy amounts, huge amounts, trillions of dollars in these programs. But hidden in all those programs are all of these things to help people do things like fix up property so they can rent them out to people.
Hmm.
And so I'm going to be doing this project, and I now have new customers, which are very exciting, and money coming in. But I'm going to be starting to travel and consult with people at no charge that want to do the same thing in their local area. So keep me in mind because it's it's really a short drive from here to most of the Midwest. I can I even have a little tiny car. It's called a Scion, made by Toyota. The thing gets 40 miles per gallon. When I
Wow.
my truck only gets 14. So when I went on a trip back up to North Dakota, I kept thinking that the gauge was broken because I'd stop at the gas station when it said half, and I could only put in like 6 gallons of gas. Right, the tank's only 11 gallons, and so
Wow.
on 11 gallons would get you 440 miles at 40 miles a gallon. So anyway,
Good.
that was kind of a refreshing thing. So what I
Well,
found is when I got up to my house in North Dakota, I couldn't find the pickup truck bed to put stuff in. The car was so tiny. When I went to the lumber yard, I had to tie everything on the roof.
Well, that's fascinating. And I think we're at the top of the hour now. And we've talked about
Good.
a lot of different things, and including housing situations. So um, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing your information and knowledge. And I'd like to thank the listeners also for listening. And I hope to see you again soon. And what's your radio?
Check out.
Why don't you mention your radio show again? Revolution Radio on Fridays at
Yeah, you get
11,
you
12,
find
or
it. You
1.
go. You, yeah, and basically you can just put freedomslips.com or freedomslips.com, and it will come up. I'm on channel A, and it starts in the afternoon on Fridays. So it's real easy to find, and it's a free show. You don't have to pay.
And what's the title of it? It's
So
called
thank
Down
you,
the Rabbit.
everybody. It's it's called the Council of Nine and Down the Rabbit Hole with Viking is the name of the host.
Okay.
So Studio A in the afternoon on Fridays.
And an
All
easy way
right.
to remember the website is Freedom Slips. If you don't hang on to it, it'll slip away.
There you go. Alrighty then. Thank you so much. And thank you, Conrad. And thank you, Paul. And thank you, listeners. And we'll see you again soon.
It's been a
Good night,
hoot.
everyone.
Don't forget about Higher Self, the Higher Self channel on YouTube, and the DNA activation channel on
Awakening.
YouTube.
Awakening.
DNA
DNA
Awakening.
Awakening.
Yeah, awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DNA Awakening and
Yes.
Higher Self. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Yes. Thank you.
Everybody
Bye,
wave.
Bye bye.
Good night.